Yeah, and I think you really have to hang on to your why in order to make it an entrepreneurship. There's a balance, of course, that not just of energy and stuff like that, but really hanging on to like, why did you even get into this industry? Like Jerixa, why did you get in?
This started as an outlet for my depression and anxiety.
Okay.
So it was like just something creative for me to do to kind of block out everything else that was going on around me.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, I just talked about this with my husband, is now that it's my career, I'm searching for something as a hobby now. Because
You and me both.
okay, cool. Because okay, let's just keep it real. Sometimes I do not feel like shooting. Sometimes,
Amen, amen, amen.
oh my God, I don't want to edit. I don't want to do anything that has to do with photography. And I'm like, how can I think this way about something I loved so much once?
Right. No, absolutely. I 100% agree. I
Oh,
think
thank God.
I think you just get to that point where it's like, okay, I'm been in business this long. It's not that I don't enjoy this, but this can no longer be, in a
An
sense, my
outlet.
creative outlet. It just isn't. So it's like I also have been like, oh gosh, like what else can I do? Like I need a different outlet,
But it also has to do with hustle culture.
Yes,
We are
exactly.
so on the hustle culture that, like, if you do take a second to sit down and relax, people are like, what are you doing? You could be doing
Exactly.
this. There's laundry that needs to be done. And why aren't you networking? And oh, I just want to
Always
sit
something
down.
else. There's always something else.
Oh, it feels so good to know that somebody else does not sometimes just not feel like doing this.
No. And so, I mean, my walking into this year and understanding just how much I had going on, I was just like, no, a couple of these things like have to go.
Yeah, you
And
did
I was just like,
great
I
job.
don't have any me time. I don't even have space right now for whatever that creative outlet is, that I'm searching for. It's like now I've at least created an extra pocket of time, that should that thing come across my path, it's like, hey, I have time for that.
Yeah. Yes, I am full time. I went full time in April of 2021.
Mhm.
I quit my full time job. I was a legal assistant. I went from vision associates to an attorney's office, and I was there for like 3 years.
Yeah.
Um, and then I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Because all I can think about was this. So while I was at work, I would bring my laptop. I would try to like edit on the low, and but, like it was literally all I can think of. And I sat in with my husband, and I was like, "Dude, look, I'm not giving this job my 100% because I want to give my business 100%. So like, what can we do about it?"
Yeah.
um, and then we were already married, so he was
Mhm.
like, "Look, you hop on my health insurance and do what you have to do." And I was like, yes. So we moved 2 months later to Florida.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And that's where it got really, really hard because I told him,
That whole transition period of now
yeah,
I take
I
an
don't,
established business and I have to move it.
I had no networking group of people to be like, hey, she's a great photographer. You know what I'm saying? Like I had to do it all by myself. And I gave
Yeah.
myself the dumbest time frame. I told myself I was going to have this entire business running in 3 months after moving.
Ooh.
So when that
Oh, you
didn't
have to
happen,
push yourself.
yep. I was like, 3 months, I'm going to be making $10,000 a month and we're going to be so well off. That did not happen. And after those 3 months, I got so depressed because I felt like I failed
Oh,
myself
because you just set your bar like way up here and then reality did not match the bar at all. Oh my
at
gosh.
all. So that was really, really hard. But I kept
Mhm.
going. My husband was like, look, because I was like, oh, I'm going to get a full time job. And he was like, okay, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But I
Yeah.
don't want to hear in a couple months that you're not giving this full time 100% because all you're thinking about is this. And I was
Right.
like, oh, you're right. So I was like, okay, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. And then
Yeah.
I told myself at the end of 2022, I said, if I'm not where I'm at with the business, I'm going to let this dream go. I tried and it just didn't work out. And sometimes it doesn't. But I'm telling you, November, December were huge months for me. I got so many bookings And I took that as, all right, we've got to keep going because
Yeah.
honestly, I was about to give up and then something is telling me not to. So that's where I'm at now.
I mean, I think sometimes even just like putting it out there, okay, universe, like this is my goal, obviously. Like I know that either it has to make it or it's not.
Hmm.
Okay, can you just show me by like a certain date the answer? You know? Yeah, I'm looking at 2023 and I'm just going, yeah, the bookings are not there the way that they
Same.
kind of felt like they should be. And in my head, I'm just going, okay, that doesn't mean I want to close the business per se, because I still love photography. But I'm just like, okay, that does give me a chance to obviously build like the boudoir side of the business, which is very new for me.
Yes.
Um, and or oh my gosh, take some personal time. Like actually enjoy life. Like that's where I'm trying to head this year in terms of simplify being my word. It's just like, actually figure out Stephanie and like what's that other creative outlet and what do I enjoy outside of this business? Because sometimes it does feel like it kind of takes over where it's like that's it. Like,
All you think
yes, you may
about.
have these other commitments, but this is the thing, this is your life. It's like, yeah, but no, it's just one thing that I do, it's not my entire life.
I'm telling you, I'm going through that right now. I'm like, who am I without this camera? I don't even know who I am anymore unless I
Yeah,
have a camera in my hand.
yeah, and do we have a camera in our hand 24/7? No,
I
we
was going to say,
don't.
I do not have a camera in my hand.
You have one on your wall, but that's it. It's like, and mine's
Hands
currently
up, I don't have it.
mine's in the bag, like over there. It hasn't been touched since the last time that I shot.
Yep.
And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's like quite honestly, there was a time where I considered like I should carry this one of these things with me 24/7. Is that a reality? Absolutely not.
No.
That's not how I live. I do not carry that thing 24/7. There
Yeah.
are moments that I'm like, I'm driving by and I'm like, yep, I wish I had a camera right now, but this doesn't really cut it.
Let me tell you the story. I went to a
Yeah.
baby shower a couple years ago, and someone at the table who I did not know was like, "Oh, so what do you do for a living?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm a photographer." She responded with, "You should really find a new career." And I was like, "Why would you say that?" And she was like, "Oh, I used to own a photography business, and these phones, there's not even going to be a place for photographers to be in this industry because of these phones." In my head, I was like, you really think a couple is going to hire somebody or not even hire somebody, leave it to their uncle or their cousin to get their entire wedding on a phone? First of all, there's not enough space on this thing.
From a video perspective, guarantee you the audio on this thing, even if you're shooting a video, is going to suck.
Yep.
Okay, this is why we have professional mics.
I was
What
just
you're,
like,
what you're going to hear is the wind and everybody scratching and moving around. You're not going to hear the audio of
and they're probably
those.
going to sound like super muffled. You're not going to,
Yes, if you hear them at all.
exactly, if
That's
you
the
can hear
thing.
them at
Like if
all.
you're 10 feet away, all you're getting is the video, is not just the gear. And so many people, it gets back to, they think they just do this. It's like, no, they're not just clicking the button. They're also interacting with you, aren't they? They're telling you, hey, I want to get this shot. So here's what I want you to do. Like, Grim, I want you to do this. Bride, I want you to, do this ever so slightly. Like, and or you're corralling the entire group of family members because you want that large group shot because that's what the bride and groom want.
Mhm.
And it might be 20 people deep.
Yep.
Okay. So there's so much more that you're getting in this role
Mhm.
than simply the high quality gear that they bring with them. And oh,
Oh,
by the way, hope to heck they are insured. I mean,
oh,
I see once in a while I see people, posting, I don't care if you're new, I don't care if you're whatever. It's like, oh, they better at least be insured and have a contract.
because you're going to care. You're going to
You're
care.
gonna care if they lose all your fucking photos because they don't know what they're doing. That's how serious it is. I cannot tell you how many posts I see and all of these groups are in. I'm sure Drexel sees them too.
Yep.
It's like people can't, the photographer lost the photos or they're waiting months and months and months later for their photos. It's like, what does your contract say?
Oh
What
my gosh.
contracts.
Literally.
Hey, I'm also a lawyer's daughter. Like I've known about contracts since I was like 5 years old, people. That's problem number one. You have nothing covering your butt right now.
When
Not a single
people,
thing if you don't have a contract.
yep, when people and those posts come, they're coming in a lot more often.
Daily.
When I
Daily.
see those that are like, would been waiting 7 months for my wedding photos, no contract was signed, don't attack me, what do I do? What do you mean don't attack you? I don't
At
know
that point, it's like
how.
you have no recourse. You have paid money. You will not get photos. I'm sorry. There's nothing you can do at this point. You have no contract.
No. And it's like, you literally gave a stranger off the street $2,000.
That was the risk you ran by paying the price you wanted is you hired an inexperienced non-business person
Yep.
with no contract to cover your butt.
Yep.
You handed them money and you say, cover my day, even if they did. And here you are 7 months later, you have no photos, you have no money, you have no memories.
Again, I see so many posts. I don't know how a photographer, I could, like, my heart could never just not
Yes,
give somebody their photos.
yes. I'd be crying a river, over like somehow losing somebody's photos. Like when I deliver the final gallery, which I use Pixie Set for right now,
Mm.
um, they're given a certain amount of time, which I think I'm at like 3 months or something like that, where it's like you download and then they get a 3-day warning before that
Same.
download gallery is going to disappear.
Yes. Which is in
Okay.
their contract that it's going
Uh,
to
you
disappear.
know, of course, we all learn things in our journey as entrepreneurs, right? So my idiotic self in my early days of, not figuring this shit out, I gave them a year.
Oh,
Yeah. Even though I gave people a year.
they didn't download them.
No,
Oh,
not only that, I've had people 3 years after the wedding, 3 years, come back to me and be like, I only downloaded them on my phone and
oh,
now I upgraded phones, so I don't have them. Please listen to me. Okay. This is the most important day of your life, right?
hmm,
Please, 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 please don't just download them to the phone. Okay. That usually is lowering the resolution.
number one.
If you drop it or ruin it, guess what? There's your only copy of your photos, or you upgrade, which is what my bride did. If you want to print them, this is also not the way to do it. It's like, please download them one to at least a computer.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I understand you probably want your favorites on here, but download them all. Download them all to the computer. And then please back them up as well somewhere else other than the computer in case this thing craps out. How many photos do you take at an average wedding?
I'm in the middle right now of editing a 10-hour wedding. And
Mm-hmm.
between me and the second shooter, because obviously I have to edit his photos too, we took
Yep.
about 4,000 photos.
Bingo. We are storing
Yeah.
all of this,
Yep.
trying to keep it as safe as we humanly can.
Yep.
And we're not infallible. We are humans. Technology craps out.
Oh, yeah.
I have had more, hard drives crap out on me than I want to talk about. Okay. This is why there's more than one backup.
Yes. Yes.
Right. It is so imperative that clients understand it's like we're trying to do everything that we can to
Yep.
safeguard your memories. It would be nice if
If you
you
did the
also
same.
share in that responsibility.
I can't. I have my wedding photos on my hard drive and on my computer, just in
Mhm.
case.
That just seems logical to me, but guess
But
that's
again,
just
like my
us.
my husband's like, oh, well, just because it's logical to you because you've been in the business. But I'm like, it's almost common sense.
Most. I mean, granted, it's like, okay, out of so many weddings, how many people have actually had come back to me? It's like, it's been a small handful.
A very small.
But I mean, when it was 3 years after the fact, that kind of stood out.
Yeah. I'm not really familiar with anything about Oregon except for you.
Yeah.
So, what is something in Oregon that you think would draw a couple to be like, I want to get married or I want to elope to Oregon?
Honestly, because I have sometimes thought about that. I'm like, what is it?
Like,
Like, why
why
go all
here?
this way? That's a long way to come and try to plan a wedding. Um, and it could be as simple as family members. That's what I hear a lot is they have elderly family that live in the state, so that is easier for them as the younger people to travel in than try to get those elderly family members out. Um, Sometimes it's just as simple as they don't live in a state with a coastline, but again, it's like, well, if you're Pennsylvania, wouldn't the closest coastline be like going the opposite direction an
Yeah.
hour or two versus like coming 3,000 miles across the, yeah. So I don't fully know the answer to that because I'm like, we have a lot of beauty. We really, really do. But then as I talk to other people too, I'm like, any state, any
And
state,
you chose Oregon.
any state has its own beauty.
Oh,
Like you obviously live there, so like you wouldn't live there if you hated it, right? Like, so why not just get married wherever you are?
when couples are like, I don't really care about the getting ready photos, like I don't really need those.
Hmm.
I'm almost like it is such a pivotal part of your story. Like
Yeah.
your invitation suite, you getting your hair and makeup done, your dress
Yeah.
hanging, like how do you go about, I don't want to say the word convincing, but I'm going to, like convincing your
Mhm.
couples like, no, you don't want to just book me for 4 hours. You need to book me for at least 6, 7 hours.
Yeah, yeah. I might almost be one of the opposite photographers on that, where I have never been okay, the invitation suite never really did anything for me. Most of my
Really?
brides didn't care.
Okay.
I've even had at least two conversations this year with potential brides where they were just like, don't care about the dress shot. And I'm like, oh, that was kind of surprising to me. I was like, most people at least want a decent, photo of
Yeah.
the dress. I'm like, you spent all this time picking it, right? Um, so I usually go about like, okay, what are the most important parts of your day for starters? Like, are you doing a first look? Are you doing a first touch? That's usually a pivotal moment. Like, are you doing one with your dad as well as your fiance? I have one that's doing one with the grandfather. I'm just like, oh my God, like, yes, give me all the grandpa vibes.
Yes.
Um, it's still really starting from the beginning of the day to the end of the day and just being like, what are the most important things to you? I remember early on in my business, you probably did this too, where it's like you walked onto the wedding and that was the first time you ever saw them.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
And that's a little awkward, honestly, because you're like, she's in her skivvies or whatever. He's like over here doing things with his buds. And it's just like, I have no idea, actually, except for how the hair is done. Like, who is the bride right now?
Yeah.
Like, it's just a little awkward. Now, granted, those have been some of my best weddings,
Yeah.
honestly. But, it does help if and so many people send inquiries and they don't want to do the engagement session. Have you noticed that?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I just convinced a couple to do it
Mhm.
with me just so you can get a feel. Do you like me?
Yes. Yes. Yes,
Yes.
yes, yes.
Yes.
I am almost willing at this point to be like, if
Yes.
you really are serious with booking with me, I will give you a free engagement session because it's like, I need us to know both ways that we're going to have a good vibe. Because if we have a good vibe on the engagement session,
It's perfect.
then hands down, the wedding is going to be so much better.
Yes. Hmm.
Okay. Because otherwise, I'm going to be the annoying person following you with the camera and you're going to hate me.
Yes. You're
I
just
don't
gonna
need
look at
that.
me. Yes, you're just gonna look at me as the photographer. Like that's it,
Yeah.
period. Like you're just gonna look at me as this girl with a camera. But if
Yeah.
we're able to meet up and get that engagement session in, then you know how I make a joke. You know when I tell you, hey, face each other, they already know, okay, we're gonna do the forehead to like you just have a feel of how each other works.
Yes. You will get a feel for my flow posing. You will get a feel for how it feels when I exactly joke around with you. I will give the guy a hard time. I will give the girl props. Like I will give him props when I'm like, you know what, you nailed the dip kiss. Like go you,
Yes.
you know. especially when they're like nervous about it. Oh
Oh
my God,
yeah.
I get nervous about it. But ultimately, it's all about making sure it's going to be the right fit because I've been the photographer, and again, this was early days where I could have sworn I was like the bee in her bonnet on her wedding day. She did not want to deal with me.
Oh no.
And I was just like, okay, when you rolled your eyes at me, I pretty much wanted to leave. I was done.
Oh my, I would have cried. I would have just,
Like, girl, I am not your biatch. Like,
at the end of the day, we're humans. And I think a lot of people forget that. They think we're robots. And it's like,
oh,
no, we are human beings. I edit for another photographer here, and I'm never gonna forget this. On Christmas Eve, she called me and was like, hey, the doctor that I did the photos for, he needs the photos edited today. And I was like, no. I was like, I'm on my way to Disney with my family. It's like, I don't know what to do. I don't have time to edit them. I was like, does this guy not know that it's Christmas Eve? I was like,
yes.
girl, put your foot down and let him know you are spending time with your family and that you will have the photos to him on the 26th.
Oh,
Period.
yes.
Do
Yes.
not
I,
let somebody tell you how to run your business. You run your business how you want to run your business. Okay, another thing I noticed on your website, and if you don't want to talk about it, it's totally fine. I saw that you don't have your prices.
I
What
don't.
what made you choose not to put your prices?
Yeah. Yeah, this is like one of the biggest, obviously, like to do this or not to do
Yeah,
this
yeah.
questions in terms of business. Honestly, it was a coach input, because I'm moving up in price level and then also offering products now, which is one of my big changes for 2023 is offering, albums and wall art. And she really advised me not to put pricing on the website. And I still struggle with it, honestly, to this day, because I'm just like, I feel like I could avoid some of the ghosting that I know is happening due to prices if I just put at least a range,
Or like a
on the
starting.
website, starting at, even a range, like, starting at 1,000 all the way to 8,000 or something like that, just to be like, here, folks, if you're already starting at, oh, I could go totally down a tangent on this. Because I mean, you see people like even trying to find a photo and video combination for under a certain budget on, any of these groups, and I'm just like, total?
I saw the other day somebody put $1,000 for both services. And I
Both?
wanted to cry. Yep. They said we're trying to stay under $1,000 for both services. I was like,
You won't be getting a professional.
nope.
I'm sorry. If you want a student who is just getting started, you will find somebody for that price. You will not be getting a professional.
That's it. It could
Yeah,
come. But I also see what you're saying, how sometimes the price can scare somebody.
yeah, it can. Because I mean, even if say I was to put a range of 1,000 to 8,000, I mean, could that even higher number scare people off of, even if you're not anywhere close to that number, could that potentially scare people off of being like, what, she charges 8,000? Like, well, you have to see what comes with that package for starters. Like, that's obviously the high end. Most people don't book the high end. Most people book, right around the middle.
Yep.
That's just law. That's statistics is people book around the middle.
It
Yeah.
is. That's what it is. It's
Yes. So,
wild.
okay, what's the middle of 1,000 and 8,000? It's about 4,500 ish. Oh,
Exactly.
yeah.
Okay, that's more close to my budget. Okay, cool.
So it's like, oh, can I get photo and video for that? Well, that's where we start having a conversation and we go, what are you wanting? And all of the things. And then we go from there. And I mean, more often than not, I feel like when I'm quoting couples these days, it's like I'm trying to offer two options,
Yeah.
one that's based on their budget,
Mhm.
and then one that ultimately is more based on what we talked about that I think is actually what they need.
To fit their vision for their day.
Exactly. So it's like, unfortunately, what your vision for your day may not actually meet your budget, at least not with my pricing. So it's like, okay, here's an option that would meet your budget, and here's an option that more better matches what you actually want, but might actually be a little bit more than your budget, you know?
And another thing that people really don't understand, at the end of the day, what we do, it's not a necessity. It's like when you want to get your hair done. It's not a necessity to get your hair done. It's a
Mhm.
luxury.
A
So don't try
luxury.
to tell me that I'm too expensive and that's ridiculous how much I charge. Okay, I'm not the photographer for you, but you have to remember I'm not a necessity.
Yes.
What do you do when a client keeps forgetting to sign the contract? It's been 3 weeks since she booked and rescheduled twice now, and I've reminded her 3 times and she still hasn't signed it. I'm getting annoyed as her contract needs to be signed at booking, and I'm not sure what else to say without sounding rude and annoyed.
Two things. One, she's not a client. She hasn't signed anything.
Period.
She is not a client until she has signed and she has paid a deposit.
I don't know how you do your contracts and deposits. I use a website where you have to give me the deposit and sign that contract for you to go into my calendar. It
Mm,
won't, nothing will go through unless those two things are completed.
yeah, until those two things are done, I'm sorry, you're not officially a client yet. If you have one of these beautiful systems, you can put a deadline on the freaking thing,
Uh,
like must sign by a certain date, or it expires. Poof, it's gone. You know, your system, like the schedule system that you're talking about, I mean, they're set up to do all of this reminding for you so that that way I'm not hounding the client. My system is doing that. Give them a deadline, you know, I would say honestly, probably not more than a week. Do people really need a week to make a decision? Like
I do
if
mine
you're
5 days. Five
if
days.
yeah, if you're talking to multiple photographers, you're going to know pretty quickly who you vibe with, what your budget is, like, do they offer all the services that you want, all the products you want, whatever it is.
There was a photographer I had on here that said that this person gave the deposit,
Mhm.
didn't sign the contract, and it was 2 days before the session. And she was freaking out. She was like, "What do I do?" I was like, personally, for me, if this was my client, I would give them
Mhm.
that money back. Like, you, there's no
Yeah,
contract, there's no binding things. And that goes back to the whole how do you just give somebody money?
yeah, you know, yeah, I think at that point it's like, you know, if this is becoming a like a real situation, a repetitive situation for you, you need to reconsider like what is the best method. Like, you know, it's using a program, I think what like Jerissa is talking about,
Yep,
where it's like literally it will not go on your calendar until those two things happen. Like if this is becoming a serious problem and doing it like my way, which is a little more clunky, is not working, meaning they're not signing and they're paying, or vice versa, you need to switch programs to a program that will literally walk them through the things. If they don't walk through the things, they don't get on the calendar.
that's it.
I mean, I also had a question for you
Oh,
that
okay.
I was like, from another photographer to another photographer, what are the biggest tips that you have for other photographers getting started?
Okay. Definitely.
Like biggest struggles to biggest tips, that kind of idea.
Okay, so I know when I first started, I really wish someone would just have taken me under their wing and been like, "Hey, I'm not going to really pay you, but you can come with me to all these sessions, to the
Mhm.
weddings, just so you get an like a feel. Like, do you want to do weddings? Do you want to do newborn? Do you want to do animals?" I tried
Mhm.
newborns. I've done maternity. I will never do newborns ever again.
Amen. I don't
Never. They, first of all, they take way too long. I can't do it. Um, so definitely try to find somebody that you can just be their shadow. Um,
Mhm.
Another thing, YouTube. You do not, I know people are gonna get pissed off. I don't care. You do not need a degree to do this. You
No,
don't. I didn't
you
go to
don't.
school. Did you go to school for this?
No, I went to school for education.
Oh yeah, yeah, you're a teacher. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Like you go, YouTube is so powerful, so powerful. And like Caitlin James has
Yes. I
a
mean, there's
thing.
so many wonderful courses out there that will teach you what you need to know. I mean, literally, even if you don't want to do like Caitlin James's courses, her all access, 27 bucks a month. I
Oh,
did that for at least a year and I learned so much from it.
there's so many
And
good.
yes, I have taken her courses as well, which are
Oh, you
just as worth
have?
it. Yeah,
I
just
haven't.
as worth it. But I'm like, even if you are on a budget, I mean, again, I think this is one of the biggest tips that I've got. It's
Yeah.
like you can learn on a budget, you can start this business on a budget, you know, is please don't do what I did, which is go into debt buying your first professional camera. Yes, I did that and put so much extra pressure on myself because then I was like, I have to earn that money in order to pay off the
Pay it
camera.
back. Yeah.
There's so
Literally.
much that, yes, getting under the wing of somebody who can tell you the pitfalls to avoid and can be like, here's why I do things this way. Like you ask all the questions. I
Yes,
mean,
ask. That's the third thing.
yeah,
Ask questions. Just ask. Take your shot. DM that photographer. Oh my God, really quick. I DM'd a photographer yesterday who lives in
yeah.
London who has 144,000 followers. I messaged him
Whoa.
yesterday because I had a question and he immediately messaged me back and he was the sweetest person. He started following me. He said, my work is beautiful. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't even think you were going to open up my message, let alone answer me in less than 10 minutes.
Oh
Shoot
my
your
gosh.
shot. Shoot your
Yeah.
shot.
Like seriously, yeah, no, I've bumped into like new photographers along the way in different places, and I'm just like, seriously, message me. I don't care.
I don't
And
care.
sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And I'm like, I understand the hesitation. I get the shy factor. I get the reservation, but it's just like, I wish I had had somebody to be able to do that when getting started.
That's what it comes down to.
It's so invaluable.
Yep. I just wish someone would have like sat with me and just been like, look, don't do this,
Yeah.
do this, and that's it. And that's why I'm like, I want to do these things because
Mhm.
I've interviewed somebody in Arizona, somebody in New Mexico, somebody in Philadelphia. Like the internet, although we don't like it right now, it is so powerful.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
there's things that people can take away from each of these things. I'm taking so much away from this whole conversation. It's unreal.
Literally, I mean, if nothing else, it just feels like the great camaraderie because I think that's the other struggle of entrepreneurs is sometimes we feel like we're going alone, and it's like, no, no, there is a whole crapload of people out there who are going through the same things, sometimes at the same time.
Yep.
Like you just heard it if you watch this entire video, like Jerixa and I are both going like, we don't want to pick up that camera as for fun anymore. It's like we're looking for creative outlets. Like, by the way, send
Any
us all
suggestions
all
anybody
the
has
suggestions in the world.
for real? Suggest what we could be doing because
Yes, suggest what we could be doing that hopefully is somewhat creative, but is completely different than photography.
yes. Oh my God, I'm craving it. All right. Well, thank you so much for all
Uh,
of your time. This was
so
so
much
much
fun.
fun.
It was
I
so
loved it.
incredible.
And I will
Oh,
talk to you on Instagram.
absolutely. Take care.
Bye.